I want to highlight a common question I get about queries and SQL statements in ArcMap. In your textbook, you'll have a lot of chance to explore how to set up attribute and selection queries, but when you start working on your own, it can be a little bit more confusing because there isn't a nicely laid out methodology and work plan for you. So let's take a look at this example. Here we're looking at population in 2010 in California by counties. What if we wanted to know what if we wanted to know how many counties in 2010 had a population greater than 1 million? We can use our select by attribute option to first check to make sure we're selecting from our 2010 population layer. Just clear that out. We can go down to our 2010 population and enter the simple query. We'll double click on our field in our attribute table, use our greater than or equal to connector, and type in 1 million. We can hit verify. I want to make sure we type that in correctly. Don't have to. And then we can go ahead and move this over here, click apply. And we can see if we open our attribute table, we have 9 out of the 58 counties that that have more than 1 million people in them in 2010. So we can sort, and you can see all the counties you probably expected listed there. Anyway, what if we wanted to know, let's clear our selection, what if we wanted to also know which counties had a percent change in population greater than 10%? So we can ask, or we can set up that query to say, we have to find our percent change in population from 2000 to 2010. We'll use this is a field in our attribute table. We use our greater than or equal to connector, and 10 for 10%. If you aren't sure how it's entered the percentages, definitely check in your attribute table first. So we can hit apply. And we can see now we have 24 counties selected. So we could go through, actually they're already sorted. You can go through and see all those counties that had greater than a 10% population growth between 2000 and 2010 in California. You can see, let's see, which Riverside County, we can see has over 41%. That's a pretty big change. So we could even change this to do, if you just want to see maybe larger change, we could do 20% and see what that does. That takes us down to 9, but they're different than our 9 most populated counties. So what if though we wanted to see where there was a large population growth and the county already had a lot of population? So we want to see that percent change greater than 10 and a population of over 1 million in 2010. That is where our our SQL joins or our connectors come in to play. So this is a slide on your lecture for this week, and I want to highlight particularly the difference between our and or connectors. So our and connector, as it says, is used to select the records from the attribute table that satisfies both expressions. So you can see a much smaller set here, just the ones that will satisfy our first part of our expression and our second part. For or, you are satisfying, the or connector selects records that satisfy the either one or both expressions. So you could just have a population over 1 million, or you could just have a percent growth over 10%, or you could have both. Whereas in our first with our and, it will just be the ones that have population greater than 1 million and had a percent change over 10%, whatever we're looking at. So this is where people tend to get a little confused about the difference between and or. So let's look at what that would look like on our map, or for this example. So we know we had 9 counties selected for our population values, greater than 1 million. And we also want to know which had that percent change of greater than 10%. So I use our and connector, percent change. We're going to stick with greater than 10%, greater than or equal to 10%. So here we have our and connector. So let's see what we get. It looks like we have 1, 2, 3, well, we can open the attribute table. We have 5 counties selected, and they are probably Riverside, Contra Costa, Riverside, Sacramento, San Bernardino, oh, and San Diego. So four of the counties in California meet both of these expressions. If we change this to or, what do you think will happen? Do you think we'll have, more counties that fall under the or statement or less? So let's find out. We can go ahead and hit apply. Oh, a lot more. So let's see what we have here. So now we have 28 counties. So it is including about 4 counties that probably have a percent change over 10%, but have a population under 1 million. So yeah, we can look at Calaveras County has a 2010 population of 45,000, but their percent change is over 12%. So that satisfies both, but here, that satisfies the percent change, where you can see Alameda County here has a population over 1 million, but not as big as the percent growth. So when you add an or, you're getting more added to your output or your selection. So the best way to think about the and or is if you want it to satisfy one expression or both expressions. It's also a good way to check if your output from your selection is not showing what you want it to show. It probably means that you need to switch your connector from and to or, but hopefully this will give you a little bit more explanation of the differences between the and or connectors.